Hey Men Warriors, welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about the real reason why some days you might wake up and you feel fine, and then other days, weeks, months, even years, you can just wake up and you just think, what is going wrong with me? What is wrong with my energy? I just do not feel like I've got that same amount of energy any longer. You may have been ill, when if you've had like serious flu or just like a really rotten cold, and you just have no energy to do anything, not even get up and go to the toilet. Having a shower is just, it's like the equivalent of running a marathon. And the reason for that is because we have finite energy reserves within the body. And when we are ill, the body needs to recover and get rid of the virus or the bacteria or whatever the body is dealing with. And so the body's resources, the energy, is going towards helping you heal, which is natural. Unfortunately, the byproduct of that is that you feel bloody awful, but it is a natural occurrence. And today I really want to break down the science behind energy because actually it's really fascinating, but also really help you understand why it is that through the menopausal transition and perimenopausal years, you might be thinking, I just feel like I've lost my va-va-voom. I just don't have that energy anymore. I remember when I was perimenopausal, and this is before I sort of became a psychotherapist, before I got really into my strength training, before I really learned what I needed to do in order to live optimally through my perimenopause and beyond. And about 3 o'clock every afternoon, I'd have had my lunch and I just felt like I could literally just fall asleep. And this went on for ages and ages. And I realized that when I started making a few changes in my lifestyle, then I no longer had that energy deficit at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, whatever it might be. I think a lot of us hit that sort of mid-afternoon lull. And since I've been doing certain things for very many years, I went through my perimenopause early. I was done with the whole thing by about the age of 41. I don't get those crashes anymore. So I'm going to explain the science behind energy, why it happens to us, and why it's particularly relevant through menopause, because then you have a better understanding of how to generate more energy, how to live like you're feeling optimally, and actually feel as though you have some kind of understanding about what's going on underneath the hood. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Kate. I am just about to turn 56. And like I say, went through perimenopause early. This channel is very much about natural menopause, but I also work with a lot of ladies who take HRT. It's just that I cannot talk myself about my own experiences of HRT because I've never taken it. I have found that lifestyle factors for me particularly have worked really well, and also a lot of the ladies that I work with. I really love it. If you find this channel interesting, please give the video a like, and if you did find it helpful, please consider subscribing to the channel. What is energy? I find this bit absolutely fascinating. Without energy, we wouldn't be able to sleep, we wouldn't be able to laugh, we wouldn't be able to think, we wouldn't be able to heal. Every single thing that your body does requires energy, and that energy is produced inside tiny little things inside your cells called mitochondria. Out of interest, one mitochondrion, many mitochondria. Every cell in your body contains around about 1,000 mitochondria. And that means that you have about 5 trillion mitochondria in your body. Isn't that incredible? These tiny structures are essentially what produce energy for you. The mitochondria take the food that you eat and the oxygen that you breathe, and they convert that into usable energy for us. And one really interesting point is, what is allowing you now to see me, to interact with me, to hear me? That is all thanks to your mitochondria giving energy to those various body parts that require that sense of communication. Isn't that fascinating? You are literally using energy to learn about energy. So inside your food are molecules containing stored energy. Think about a green leaf, for instance. It takes energy through photosynthesis from the sun that it captures with the green leaf. And when we eat that green leaf, or other items of food, that becomes stored energy in our bodies. And the mitochondria take that stored energy and slowly release it so that we have a consistent amount of energy to use throughout the course of the day and the night. Actually, how this happens is that the mitochondria remove electrons from the food, and those electrons move towards oxygen, which creates ATP, adenosine triphosphate. I've spoken about that at length in the past. Essentially, it's ATP is our energy currency. And that process creates heat, which helps to keep us warm, and it also signals our cells as to what they need to do. For instance, when you shake somebody's hand or when you touch somebody's arm, you can feel the warmth in that body. In life, millions of these tiny cellular power plants generate heat that then radiates outwards. And when a person dies, the oxygen supply stops. Mitochondrial activity reaction also stops, and the thermodynamic energy flow ceases. Then why the body will cool down to the ambient temperature. So that's why, if you've ever touched a dead person, they are much cooler than an alive person. And it's because of that lack of mitochondrial activity in the body. So mitochondria are pretty important. And I think it's just helpful to have an understanding of actually what they do in the body, because literally everything that we do, even just sitting down, relaxing and doing nothing, requires energy because of all the activities, the autonomic things that go on in your body, like breathing, heartbeat, blood flow, immune system function, digestion, etc. Everything requires some element of energy for us to function and be alive. But the thing to remember is that when your energy system is not working optimally, then that does have a knock-on impact to how you actually feel. And that's one of the biggest gauges. You can't really measure your mitochondrial activity. But when you stop to think, are you constantly feeling tired? It is worth getting your blood checked in case you've got low iron levels. Thyroid can also have you feeling really lethargic. There are other things that might also contribute to you feeling a complete lack of energy. But a lot of it is down to the fact that we have a finite amount of energy. And when we support our energetic systems correctly, then we're likely to have access to more energy. When you understand why it's so important that we do cherish our mitochondria, because they're literally vital for us, it then gives you a little bit of control over your decisions as to, if you're sick and tired of feeling lacking in motivation and you feel like it really is having a negative impact on your productivity. Because I don't know about you, I remember in those days when I was so tired, God, it was so hard even to try and stay awake. I was doing some of my sports massage diploma at the time, and I was revising, and just to read like a page of the book was just like, oh my God, I'm just really struggling not to fall asleep. That was not very productive. If I was reading that page of the book these days, it's fine. I could read it, I can take it in, I can memorize what's in the book, and I would have been a lot more productive nowadays than I would have been back then. So it does have this knock-on impact on how we actually manage to live our lives, particularly if you're a busy person and you've got lots of stresses and you've got lots of demands here, there, and everywhere. It's really important that your energy levels are supporting you like you need them to support you. Otherwise, pretty much every afternoon is written off, and that does have a seriously negative impact on how the rest of your life pans out. Your body has to decide on the energy that it has, what it's going to spend that energy on. And of course, your body will prioritize survival. When you're under constant stress, or your sleep is poor, or maybe your nutrition isn't great, maybe your lifestyle doesn't include much movement, then, and I will come on to the things later that can be beneficial for energy production, and they don't all include strength training, I promise you. But that means then that it's like having a team of workers. So say you normally have 10 workers that are working for you, and they've all got their little jobs that they do and everything's running quite smoothly. If, for instance, you catch a cold, some of those workers have got to be reassigned from the job they normally do to then help bolster your immune system, which means then that other aspects, so maybe looking after your skin, maybe your hair quality, maybe your nails, maybe just your clarity in thinking. Because I don't know about you, if I have a bad cold, my head feels so stuffed up, my thought processes just go gunky, and that is likely because my team of 10 are busy fighting off the cold, or some of them are fighting off the cold, and I've only got like 3 workers doing the essential backup job when normally I'd have 10. And so naturally, that is why we feel a bit under par, we feel lethargic, and why we don't have access to those energy reserves that we would normally have when we are in pretty good condition. And this is something that if you've fallen asleep, you need to wake up now, because this is actually really interesting. Is that energy, if it has no resistance, really doesn't really grow or develop at all. So take, for instance, the plant leaf. So the plant leaf creates the resistance for the energy from the sun to come through so that the plant can then assimilate that energy from the sun via photosynthesis into food for the plant. The same applies to us. We need some element of resistance in order for that energy to actually build in more capacity. And there is a need for the body to adapt to a certain demand. The body generally responds very positively. That's a bit like strength training. The fact that, you're breaking down muscle tissue by lifting heavy weights. Your body recognizes there's a stress in, you're getting out of breath, you're building you're breaking down muscle tissue, which then when you take your rest days recovers and repairs, and so you get stronger. That resistance helps you build up your muscle definition. The same applies to just the energy flowing through the body. The mitochondria become more efficient when they have some element of resistance to work against. It's called the energy resistance principle. And just as muscles require resistance to grow and develop, to efficiently generate and transfer energy, preventing sluggishness and optimizing cellular resistance. Just as muscles require resistance to grow, cells need metabolic resistance for them to efficiently generate and transfer energy, preventing sluggishness and optimizing cellular resilience. And women often ask me, what is the best type of exercise for energy? And I mean, I will always say strength training because it helps the body on so many different levels. It keeps your bones stronger. It actually burns more calories at rest after a good strength training session than it does after a significant cardio session. As we go through the menopause, we don't want to be raising our cortisol levels too high either, which is like why long intensity cardio is not great for you, because it also breaks down your muscle mass. There are a myriad reasons why strength training is so beneficial for us. But when we're talking about mitochondrial function, anything that gets your heart racing more, also the exercise that you're going to commit to do, if you absolutely hate strength training and running or swimming or cycling is the only thing that you actually are going to show up and do that. I mean, it's better to do that than nothing at all. And so any kind of resistance like that, or resistance that's going to make your breathing and your heart rate increase, will be beneficial for you. Anything that makes you breathe harder means that your mitochondria are working harder. And that means your body becomes more efficient. It can create more mitochondria. It helps with your oxygen delivery around the body. It strengthens muscles and also increases energy production. Then you need to make sure that you have time to rest and recover, because that is when your body adapts. That's when your body heals, and that's when your body grows stronger. So it is that balance of challenging it and then allowing enough time for recovery, which is why if you're doing strength training, maybe do upper body one day, lower body the next, or chest and back one day and then shoulders the next. Allow plenty of time in between your training sessions for a good sort of 24 hours of recovery. And there might be days when you just feel exhausted. I mean, if the weather's really hot and if it's really humid, that in and of itself is a stress on your body. So rather than doing something that is really, really going to challenge you, maybe take it back a bit. Maybe don't work out quite so long. I know when I'm doing a heavy duty strength training session, there are days when my heart literally feels like it's going to pump out of my chest. And I quite like that feeling, but there is that balance. It really is about becoming familiar with what is healthy for you and what is too much of a stress. And if it's too much of a stress, you're not going to keep doing it either. So there is finding that balance. We get so good at just pushing harder and harder and harder and harder. And all we do is risk running into burnout, risk illness, and then you end up either bedridden or with an injury, which then sets you back so much further than if you'd taken it a little easier. And I'm as guilty of it as anyone. I get up really early. I try to get to bed early, but some days, especially during the summer months, it doesn't happen so much because I decided to pretty much go self-sufficient with my gardening this year. So I have got a mass of stuff to do. And I find that my days are literally always on. People say to me, "Oh, what did you do at the weekend?" It's like work. And I haven't been on holiday for years. But I feel like my life is a little bit of holiday. I have flexibility around my daily schedule, which for a freedom lover like me is perfect. I'm not stuck to one address where I have to be at work. I have multiple businesses that I run, so I have lots of variety that way. And that works for me, but it might not work for you. You have to find something that feels safe, feels balanced, and also be really mindful of not overdoing it. And if you are overdoing it, make sure you don't overdo it for too long, because that is when it comes back and bites you in the bum. And yet, while I say mitochondria do need an element of resistance, we all want a little bit of a challenge, but too much of anything is going to be detrimental. And another concept I just want to quickly go over is, for instance, when I'm driving maybe 12 hours, I've always got healthy food in the car to keep me going. But you'll hear of a lot of people say, oh, if you're hungry, just, pull over and get a pack of crisps, or people have their travel sweets and those sorts of things to keep them going. That sort of stuff might give you a quick kick because it's going to, provide salts and sugars and actually stuff that your body doesn't need, but your brain likes, because it's just like, yay, this is like the fun stuff. But then you have the crash afterwards. Sometimes the sort of old adage of eating more to fuel you for longer, it runs out after a certain amount of time. What we put into our bodies is the results that we get out. And when you're fueling the body not very well, you're not going to get that energy out. And, if you consider your car, for instance, whatever your car might be using these days, I mean, whether it's a diesel or a petrol, for instance, or even an electric car, there's only so much diesel you can put into your diesel tank. There's only so much electricity that you can store in the battery at one point in time. Anything over what it actually needs is just wastage. The same applies to us. But if we're eating it, we're creating fat in the body, we'll be storing fat, and we're also causing stress on the body, because the body's thinking, just stop eating, I don't need all this food now. It's having a negative impact on your blood sugars, it's having a negative impact on your insulin levels. Insulin is your fat storing hormone. Because you're eating more than you need, it's probably also having a negative impact on your stress hormones. When your stress hormones go up, again, your insulin hormones are generally affected as well. So all these things you need to take into account. And actually, it's not that complicated. It's just becoming familiar with your body signals. Do you feel hungry still after you've had one sandwich? Probably don't. Emotionally, you might want something else, like the pack of crisps or the chocolate bar or whatever it might be. But physically and energetically, you probably don't need any more. But do aim to become a little bit more self-reflective, because your body knows what it needs. It's just that we've become so detached from listening to its signals that we ignore them. And often we're too busy and too preoccupied with something else that we just keep eating. How many of us sit in front of a film at the cinema and we just eat that massive pack of popcorn or whatever it might be? Probably didn't need all that popcorn, but we just do it because we don't think, oh, do I actually need any more? Maybe not. I'm not going to go into nutrition in any great detail, but our mitochondria needs to feed our bodies like a human. So plenty of vegetables, healthy fruits, try and eat more of the berries rather than the high sugar fruits. But I mean, any fruit is better than a sweet or a chocolate bar. Eat plenty of protein, lead with protein, because your menopausal body needs as much protein as technically as you can probably eat. It's hard to eat enough protein for optimal living once you've gone through the menopause. Just as an indicator, it's your ideal body weight in pounds, ideal body weight in pounds, and it's how many pounds is that? So say you want to weigh 140 pounds, or you do weigh 140 pounds and you're happy with that weight, you want to aim to eat 140 grams of lean protein daily. So that means getting really protein centric around all of the meals of the day, and that will keep you fuller for longer. It will help to fuel every cell of your body. Proteins are the building blocks of life, and if you're strength training or doing any kind of exercise, it will help to preserve your muscle mass, which does decline much more rapidly after you've had you've marked your menopause day than it did before. Remember to sleep. That is when your cells repair, when you regulate your hormones, it's when you process your memories, and you support your immune function, and the body is able to clear waste. And I think most of us know that a few nights of poor sleep can have a negative impact for 2 or 3 days afterwards, even still reaching for the more sweetie food. So if you've had a bad night's sleep, really be ninja about making sure you're eating enough protein, because that will help to dampen that desire that the brain is trying to get you to just get quick energy. It doesn't care how you're getting that energy. It just wants to survive in its mind. It doesn't realize you've just had a bad night's sleep. You've just gone into more of a survival mode. So it's thinking, yeah, eat the crisps, eat the sweets, eat the cake, yummy, yummy, yummy. But in actual fact, you're not doing yourself any favors at all. And building resilience to stress is also really important for our mitochondrial function. Stress is always going to be out there. We can certainly reduce a lot of the stressors that we are surrounded with these days by eating well and moving well and prioritizing sleep as much as we can do. But it's when we allow stress to overwhelm us, it's that long-term stress that has a negative impact. Stress in and of itself, the body should respond accurately with it. We have inbuilt systems to deal with stress, but it's when either we become absorbed with anxiety, and when we feel like we're sort of collapsing in on ourselves because of anxiety or overwhelm or lack of communication with our loved ones or feeling isolated. Building in resilience to stress, and I have to say strength training is great for this too. It really does make you feel a bit more ninja. So if you are one of those individuals who struggles to manage the feelings of stress and overwhelm, and you're not yet strength training, I highly recommend it for so many different aspects of your health. But it does make you feel stronger physically, but it also helps with your emotional strength. When we're overwhelmed, our brain is using more energy, and it means that your mitochondria have to support that. Nothing is free. There is always going to be a trade-off. So where mitochondrial energy is being spent, it's probably a good thing. You know, it's looking after you, it's keeping your immune system firing up, but it means there's a cost at the other end because there is only so much energy, and energy goes where it's needed most. So building in stress resilience frees up some of that energy to go to, the other things that our body doesn't need to survive, like making your hair look healthier or your skin look healthier or just feeling a little bit more energetic yourself. And just bringing menopause into this again, estrogen affects our mitochondrial function. It affects pretty much every cell of the body. And so when estrogen falls, when all of our sex hormones fall, but predominantly estrogen, because it has such an impact on every cell of our body, it takes time for us to adapt to that change. And again, that adaptation is a stressor. So if you're in the thick of your perimenopausal years right now, or you're sort of just newly postmenopausal and you're still struggling a little bit with it, that is because your body is adapting. So, allow yourself a bit of breathing space, take it easy. You don't have to try not to take on as many of the challenges that maybe you did when you were younger. And if you're not able to calm things down, I mean, my life through my perimenopausal years was chaotic. I lost my dad and I left my husband and I've got two young children, and it all went a little bit crazy. I always kept eating healthy foods, and that's when I really got into my strength training and adaptation and herbs as well. They made a massive difference to me because they just help you regulate your stress hormones. I don't know where I'd have been without that. And those were just a few easy tweaks that I could make myself to really support my energy levels and to help me build in resilience to stress. So I've lived it. I know it works. I promise you it does. So we've really sort of talked about how you can improve your mitochondrial function, giving you more energy. So look after your sleep, do some strength training, ideally. Other training if you feel like you absolutely hate strength training, but keep moving. Eat plenty of protein. Try and manage your stress levels. Time outside, ideally in nature. I mean, we all know, I think the human body just responds so well to when it's being surrounded by greenery. Even, studies that have shown that people who live in the inner city but have an apartment or a house that has lots of plants in it generally have a better stress resilience to those who have no plants in their property. So if you are stuck in an apartment block in the middle of a city centre and you've not yet invested any plants, I would get yourself a few plants and then you can propagate from those. It's so easy to grow your own plants. Get onto YouTube, you can find all the information that you would possibly need, and within 2 years you could literally be overrun with plants. And then just chatting about a few supplements that might support you. There's a lot said about red light therapy and helping you improve your energy levels. Red light therapy, how the body responds follows a bell curve. So there is an optimal amount depending on the sort of red light therapy that you're using. I think a lot of devices, particularly the newer devices these days, have that maximum limit built into them. So they might automatically shut off after, say, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it might be. But don't think, oh, because it says 5 minutes on the packet, I want to get great results because so I'm going to do 20 to 30 minutes. The the benefit that you get drops off massively, and you can even reverse the benefit if you use your red light therapy beyond what the suggested use is. So depending on the nanometers and the sort of red light therapy device that you're using and how close it is to you, make sure that you're following the guidelines, because within certain levels, it can be really beneficial. If you're doing it too little or too much, it can actually have a negative impact. And that applies to pretty much everything. The same with exercise. You don't want to overdo exercise. If you intermittent fast and you find it's still giving you really great results, you don't want to overdo that either. We don't want to overeat. We don't want to oversleep. We want to try and find that happy medium for everything that we do in our lives. I should remind myself not to overwork, but I kind of thrive on it. I really do enjoy having lots of different projects on the go. That functions for me really well, which is why it's such an individual approach. There are some foundations to it, and movement, healthy food, prioritizing sleep, managing stress, and getting outside will benefit all of us. Vitamin D3 is a great one if you don't get a chance to be outside much. Particularly if you live in northern latitudes or you have darker skin, it might be that a vitamin D3 supplement would really be beneficial for you. If you're having a D3 supplement, combine it with a K2. There's loads of them around. It just helps make sure that any calcium that's in your body goes to where it needs to go. And without going into calcium in any great detail, I'll pop a link here that will explain all that in more detail for you. And also adaptogen herbs. If you're finding stress is a problem, I find ashwagandha is a really helpful adaptogen herb at calming that stress response. If you feel like your immune system is always really struggling, something like reishi can be really beneficial, or Maytake. Reishi, I think, is probably just a nice underlying supplement that you can take, ideally in the morning, and that can just help to support your immune system in the background. I take ashwagandha at night because I think it does help me to sleep better if I'm under times of severe stress. And then another one that I've found that I've been taking, I started it quite recently actually, is rhodiola. And I take that in the morning. If you struggle with get up and go and motivation and being as productive as possible, then rhodiola can be really beneficial for you. The reason I started to take it is because I was probably overworking myself, having said that I love all these things that I do. I went through a period when I was just thinking, I've got so much to do and I'm not feeling as productive as I was, despite looking after my, eating well, moving regularly, getting out into nature regularly. I was probably I just had too many demands. So, like all good mentors, I decided, well, I'll have a supplement so I can actually manage to do more. And I found rhodiola really helps. So, while I would say don't push yourself, that I think it was within limits. Rhodiola, none of these adaptogen herbs are going to be miraculous changes to you, but they do support you quietly in the background. And rhodiola is one of those that I'm actually really enjoying taking at the moment. I'm not taking ashwagandha at the moment. I'm not taking reishi at the moment. I take them for probably 6 months. And then once that phase, whether it's stress or whatever it is, has started to back down again, then I come off them. And if, I go through another period of severe stress, I will start taking ashwagandha again. And likewise, if I feel like my immune system's just struggling a bit, I will then take some reishi as well. And so menopause can be a pretty big transition, and it can have a negative impact on your energy levels because your mitochondria have only so much availability to them. But when you understand why that is, and then when you can work out how to best support your individual situation in life, remembering that that's likely to change from sort of 1 month to the next month, from 1 year to the next year, then you can make these adjustments. You have so much more influence on how you feel than possibly you think you do. And that is really what I want you to take from this, is that once you understand what helps to support your energy levels, then it's up to you to think, okay, well, maybe I actually could do a bit more of this, or maybe I should do a little bit less of that. Maybe delegate, maybe cut out some of the toxic people in your life. Be really mindful about who you give your time to, because whenever you're giving your time to something or someone, you're removing time from either another person or yourself. And I think during our menopausal years, we never stop caring, we never stop giving of ourselves. But it might be a time for you to reflect on, actually, you deserve a part of that conversation too, and you deserve some time for yourself too, because you do. We're not robots. We can't just keep running on empty. So I hope that has been a helpful episode for you. I hope it wasn't too scientific. Please, like I said at the beginning, if you did find it helpful, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing to the channel. If there's anything you'd like me to add in a future episode, just drop it in the comments. I'll add that to my rotation. Thank you so much for your company, and I will look forward to seeing you next week.